Hello everyone and welcome to another CAD-Swift feature release video. My name is Christian Bursell and I'm the creator of the CAD-Swift content for ArchiCAD. I wanted to personally share this feature release with you because I'm proud of it and also a bit excited. Also, I want to give you an in-depth look at how to apply it and what the benefits are. Let's take a quick look first and then we'll get into more detail. For 15 years now we've had a joinery tool for ArchiCAD. Its purpose is to create complete joinery units with multiple functions in a single placed instance, so that you can have a joinery unit that consists of doors, drawers, oven recesses and so on in a single placed instance of an object. A few years ago we added our infinite capacity to the vertical and horizontal partitions of the tool. This meant you could have a lot more functions in there. We also added several more function types so that the tool could be applied to built-in and walk-in robes. So we have hanging rails and the like in there also. I recently added the leg and rail function, which are units for hospitals and schools, and also for just simple floating furniture, coffee tables and standard kitchen tables and the like. However, the most important development is the incorporation of our component catalogues feature. If you've seen infinite openings, you would know that we have a function that actually lives in the tool that allows you to build up catalogues of different settings of different parts of the tool. For instance, in the joinery tool, we can set the door panel style up the way we want it, and we can save door panel styles to the door panel catalog. We can also do that with handles, we can do it with bench tops, and we can do it with a lot of things. I think there's actually 20 components in the joinery tool that have catalogues that you can save the different configurations out and then assemble them as units. Obviously we've put this in here because it's really cool to have a tool that can achieve a multitude of configurations, of complex configurations. However, accessing those configurations can be difficult if you have to rely on remembering which project you did a certain element in. This way, you can save your configurations into the catalogue and you can manage your catalogues project by project or even office-wide. So, let's take a look at how it works. I have here a 2-story residential project, which is not the best for showing off the management capacity of this tool, as there are not a lot of units. There is very little repetition, except perhaps in the styles. So you won't see the full power of the tool that you would see on a very large scale project with lots of repetition, lots of units. But there are still many efficiencies to be gained through the tool in a project such as this, even such a small project. The kitchen in this project has been modelled with the older version of the tool. So now I've loaded the update with the catalogues. I want to go in and I want to save these units into those catalogues for the components, for the styles and for the overall configurations. The reason I want to do this is firstly so I can ensure the components are locked down to the configuration and are therefore quality controlled, so that I know the door panels match on both these units if they're meant to. Secondly, I want to be able to edit the components and the styles of the joinery on a global scale. So if I apply a certain door style to all these doors, I want to be able to edit this kitchen purely by editing that door style. So let's get into it. One of the first things you'll notice when you open this update is the new user interface. It's basically the same interface, but we have simply enhanced a few of the pages and added some more pages. So we'll have a look at the tree first. So we have these two new pages. This is our original introduction page, just a link to the website. Now we have these two new pages, components and component catalogues and assemblies. This mimics infinite openings. We haven't developed component catalogues and assemblies yet because we're still working on the components page. These are sort of perform the same function, but they're different styles and we're just trying to work out which people like best. Then we've broken the existing pages down into the design menu and the function menu. We still have a little bit of polishing of the UI to do with icons and things. The original pages have all been put into these menus. So we have a new page for size and carcass. This was previously just sizes or general sizes. So we have our size and carcass, and this allows you to turn on all the panels, general panels, benchtop, kick, and set the thicknesses and the overall size. Benchtop page has been enhanced to focus purely on the benchtop and the styles and the overhangs, the different treatments of the edges and so on. Kick has its own page, very easy to sort of configure the element in that page as well. Same with gable ends, which is a fairly dynamic interface. Legs and casters remains the same. Few little graphical improvements. Same with rails. Once again, a couple graphical improvements there. The function arrangement, so we've set this up so there's an arrangement page where you just nominate the arrangement, not the actual functions, and then you nominate the internal partitions. These are a little bit more graphical as well, sort of help with the easy interpretation of that page. And then we have the setbacks and positioning of the carcass elements. That's a minor page there, and then we go down into the functions. So the functions is basically a mimic of the function arrangement page, but you actually nominate the functions, and we've got these graphical symbols here now to make it a little bit more user-friendly graphically. Within the functions, we then can go in deeper into door panels. That's the viewing panel there. So we go door panel configurations. That's the same as in the infinite openings. We have a new height adjuster, which we haven't developed fully yet, the interface for that, because it's a fairly new component. That's just a little geometric element that mimics a winder or an electrical adjuster on the table to sort of signify a table that can be electrically or manually adjusted height-wise. Drawer configurations are the same. We've sort of tidied it up a little bit, made it a little bit better. Same with the shelf placements, 2D and 3D open positions, and then the 2D and 3D representation. So those pages have remained the same, just been organised a little bit better into the tree. Okay, so that's the new interface. Hopefully it's a little bit easier to navigate. As far as navigation goes, most of it should be done from this first page, or second page, but first official page, where you can access both the functions, the design aspects, so all those other menus, all those other components, and you can also save your component catalogues, save the assemblies, and save all the other elements. So this is basically where you start to develop your catalogues. So we're going to start with the basic components, and for that we're actually going to use a function in this interface that I've developed, that I'm trialing, that's called a designer menu. What this does is it filters the menu, and it filters the menu into the 4 key elements. The carcass, let me just expand this so we can see them all at once, because this is kind of the beauty of this part of the interface. Carcass, benchtop, kick, and we'll just minimize the carcass so we can see the function arrangement. So basically you can control everything about the configuration of this element except the precise functions of each station within this interface. You can obviously turn this interface off and go back to it and start to control all those other components. Also, we have this other icon here that's show menus and hide menus. It says hide menus when you've got it changed. So if I click on that, it's irrelevant actually in this design menu. So let me turn that off first, and then I'll show you how this works. So as I move through the menus here, the other menus disappear. Okay, so now we just see the design menu. So if I minimize the design menu, now we can see all the other menus again. So that's the hide menu function. With the show menus function, the other menus simply do not disappear. That way you can sort of know where you are within the tree of functions. However, it does limit the interface real estate that you have for each element. So you can only see certain amounts. You have to extend the whole thing the full length of the page if you want to start working with it like this, expanding multiple things. But for some aspects it can be handy to have that. So just a little click of that button and that'll change that function. And if we go back to the designer menu, it turns that off. So within this, we want to set our first element, our carcass. We want to save this. This is the standard kitchen carcass, so we do a project specific perhaps. The code for this project is 20F. We'll call this 20F kitchen carcass. So we don't need to name it carcass because it's in the carcass catalog. So of course it is a carcass item. So we'll just call it 20F-kitchen. Now what we do is hit the upload button. We can see there's a capacity here. Ignore that number at the end, the 111. That's an ID which I need to remove. So there's a certain capacity, and at this moment 0% of this element's capacity has been filled. So there's plenty of room in our database. These databases do get filled up, and you do need to create multiple databases if they do get too full, but it takes quite a while for them to get full. Okay, so upload that to our database. This is our database here. This is the name of it. That's the file, the data file. This is our download button to get refresh the data in this object from the database. And this is the item we've chosen from the catalog. So once we upload, our item doesn't automatically go there, because it does go to the catalog, but we have not retrieved and refreshed the catalog data in this object. So we need to do that by hitting the download button. Okay, now we have our item, so we can set that. So that's our carcass. Benchtop, same sort of thing, probably the same name. 20F-kitchen. You may have different bench tops throughout the kitchen as well that have different configurations. For instance, some may have the splashback applied, some may not. This one, none of these have a splashback applied, and I'm pretty sure I've got a window in the way at the moment. Yeah, so I haven't set the splashback to be adjustable horizontally yet, but that's probably a good plan. I'll work on that. So I'm going to leave the splashback off this. So this kitchen benchtop will be the same throughout, except the island benchtop will probably have different overhangs and things like that, obviously. So we'll just call this kitchen. Upload, download. Now, we can actually hit this lock button and it'll find this in the list. So we don't have to go into this list and select it. We can just hit lock and it finds it. Okay, now the kick. Again, I think it's going to be the same thing. 20F-kitchen. You might use the same kick in your kitchen and your laundry, and perhaps even in your bathrooms. Probably not in the bathrooms. So you might want to call this kitchen laundry, or you might just want to know that the laundry uses the kitchen. You can do a schedule of these components as well. So then you can see if your laundry covers are using the kitchen kick and so on. So that's where you get into really good QA side of this tool. Okay, did we upload that? Upload, download, lock. And now the function arrangement. So the function arrangement will be specific to this unit. So I'm going to call this one, you can see that we've got a unit. It's been broken into 6 functions and they're all equal. For this one, I am going to name it 20F-. There's an island, there's a wall, and there's a window. So we'll call it kitchen, wall, upload, download, lock. Okay, so that is that element mostly taken care of, except we haven't really defined the function. So I'm going to get out of this designer menu. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to have a look at the functions here. So it looks like we've opened a bit. These are our 6 stations. I'll show you in 3D. Okay. So if we look here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each of those stations is a function. This one is a door with a handle in the middle. Within that function, it also has components. So it has a door panel. It has the door panel glass. It has the handles. Within the door panel, there is also a view panel and a grill. Now, if this function happened to be off, might all be locked. So let me just see if this, it is all locked. So let's go to the function page. We can go to the door panel page or so on by clicking on these, but we want to actually go to the function page, so we click on this one at the top here. So global functions are locked, so let's turn that off. Let's go back to where we were. Set this one to off, and obviously the door panel and all its elements don't apply, so there's no components within that function type. Fixed does have a door panel. Everything else is basically a door panel, except for the drawers, but they do still have their styling handled by these components. The other one would be the dishwasher recess, so it is obviously a void. And then there's the height adjuster, and so the height adjuster, you've got the height adjust component as well. And then there's the other elements are just panels. These elements should actually be removed, please ignore them. Shelves are handled here, so you can set the station. So this is station 1, which is the function 1. Station 1 can have multiple stories, it only has one, so it only has the one function. And it can also have its shelves. So let me just minimize this function so you can see that. So a station has a function and it has shelves. We've only defined 3 different shelf banks at the moment. The shelf and rails that were in here have now been removed. Rails have been applied to shelves. So if we go into our shelf settings, function, so minimize station shelves. See, that's where sometimes it's handy to have these all on so that you can see, because I was in my station, I couldn't see where the shelves were. Okay, so we can go to our shelves and we can set up more banks here, and we can we're setting the shelves now, or we can set the rails. So a shelf bank consists of shelves that can be individually defined and rails as well in the same element. Okay, let's go back to where we were. So we're going to save these as functions. So that is not supposed to be adjusted. We need to go back to the function page, and we need to set this up, and we need to have that as handle top. I think that's how we'll start off. Okay, so now we can save this function. So we're going to save this function. It's going to be a standard door panel. So this is going to be our project code, and it's going to be the kitchen door panel. This is the function. So the function is the fact that it's just a door. Door. I'm not going to overthink the names here. This is probably not how I would name it, but you get the idea. So at the moment, the kitchen door consists of these components. None of these have been set. So to upload this kitchen door is basically just saving that it's a handle top type, and that all the elements, all the components are set to custom. So we want to set these components to elements first. So let's go and do that. We'll just do this quickly. We'll just do 20F dash kitchen. That's going to be our name for all these door panels. The door panel, the opening glass, the handle, and we can expand from there if we need to. So I'm going to copy that. So I'm just going to go through this. I'm going to go upload the panel, download, lock, minimize, opening glass. I'm going to set the name, upload, download, lock. View panel. This view panel is off, so really giving it a name is probably fairly pointless. So we should just call this off. There's already a VP off, but I'm just going to type off plainly. It makes it a little bit more simple. Okay, minimize the view panel, and the grill should be off as well. Okay, that's off. So let's just do off, upload, download, lock. Okay, we'll leave the stations off, they'll get locked by this. So now that we've set up this function, we can save this as our kitchen door. So upload, here, download, and lock. Okay, now that locks all these elements. You'll see I can't actually change this to custom. I can't change it to anything. It's locked down. Even though it looks unlocked, it actually is locked. It's an array element, so I can't actually lock the parameter that controls this. So that's why it doesn't appear grayed out like the catalog, which I can lock because it's not an array. Okay, so that's our kitchen door. So now that we've done that, we've stored that function, we can actually apply that function to other elements. So we'll minimize this station, and we can go to station 2, and we can simply go kitchen door. Okay, if we look in that, it's the same settings applied. So we basically just go along and do that to the whole element in this case. We don't have any drawers in this element, and we don't have any shelves in this element at the moment, so I'm going to leave those. We could lock down our appearance settings, but I haven't really defined them specifically. I haven't focused on them at the moment. So you could lock down your 3D representation, which would be all your materials. Probably a wise thing to do for kitchen elements, as materials textures are fairly critical. And you can lock down your 2D representation, so this would be more an office standard rather than a project or design specific thing. Okay, so that basically completes the locking down, the quality controlling of this unit. So now it is completely under the control of those databases. We can now move on to this unit here, and we can use basically everything that we've configured in that previous one. So we start at the design level, and we will use the same carcass. This is not size, so when you go to the carcass, these are size settings. They're not part of the carcass, and I'll show you that. So when I select this, I need to download it, refresh the data in this instance of the object, select that carcass, you can see everything locks except for obviously the bench top and the kit, because they're defined separately down here, and also the sizes lock. So those sizes are controlled by the overall assembly. So I'll set these elements here. So I'm just going to go bench top. Oh, wrong, selected the wrong one there. We'll see how the bench top changed. Went back, there we go. Back to good. Okay, we need to download this database. And this one. You can also, if you go back to the start, you can download all databases with one click. There's the button for that. So we've got the kitchen, and this is not the kitchen wall, this function arrangement. Although it looks very similar, it is not. So we want to set up a new one for this function arrangement. So let's expand this. And instead of being the kitchen wall, this will be the kitchen window. Upload, download, and lock. Okay, let's get out of the reduced designer menu, and let's go to our functions. Functions. Show you where that is in the menu. So this is the overall menu. So I got out of the designer menu, which is a reduced version of this design menu. It's carcass, benchtop, kick, and function arrangement. And now I'm in the functions menu because I want to deal with these functions. So they're all doors as well. They're all the same as the other ones. So we're going to basically go through this, and we're going to do the same. We're going to download the latest. I did think I did that. Okay, kitchen door, station 1, station 2, kitchen door, and so on all the way to the bottom. I don't think these have all been refreshed. These databases here haven't been refreshed, so they don't know that they've got the kitchen door in them. So that's why you can pay to go back to this catalogues function and this one here. Download components from all assigned catalogues. Hit download, and that'll make sure we don't have any of those little inconsistencies. It's station 3, station. Okay, so we can see what elements we've got locked down here in the design menu. All these things are off, so we could go in and set all them to off and lock them down as well, or we can just leave them as custom, and then those things can actually be added in to this assembly later on if you like. So now we can go into the assembly and we can save this, and I think we'll use that same name that we used down here for the kitchen window. So I'll save this as 20F kitchen window, and I'll upload that. Download what I just did and hit the lock button, and now you can see how it visibly locks, because it actually does lock those arrays now. But the custom items still remain custom, so they can still be edited. So if you need them to specifically be off, locked to off, then you need to save those elements as off, or set it to one of the off functions and save that when you store this. You can simply do that by going off, then unlock, upload, download, lock. Okay, and now that element is locked to this configuration. So that is the basic way this element works as far as the database is locking things down, and you can sort of see the benefits of just setting that one up. At the moment, going through all this and setting this up once I've already modeled is a little tedious. But if I had done it while I was modeling, it would have made the whole process a lot faster. Okay, so I've got that set locked into my kitchens. Now I want to set this island one here. So first we should go to our database, download all the latest. We can go into our designer menu, and we can select correct elements. Okay, so this one is the island, so we'll expand function. This will be 20F kitchen island. Upload, download, and lock. So completely locked down as far as the design menu is concerned. We lock down the functions. One of the things about locking down these functions, even if we are going to change the functions later, what we are also locking down here is the door styles, the panel styles, handles and things like that. So we might change the actual function to a different element, but at least this also keeps the styling in place. Okay, with all those elements locked down for this, we can now save the assembly. Okay. Oops. Something happened there. I applied the wrong benchtop, didn't I? Okay, so tidy that up, come back in, and rather than doing this 20 kitchen for the benchtop, we need to do the island one. So I'm going to copy this island name down here. I'm just going to apply it to these settings. Upload, download, lock. Okay, so that's our kitchen. Our main kitchen cupboards, underbench cupboards done. We've got the overhead cupboards as well to do. So we can apply the styles that we used in that and then just save those configurations down. Same with these elements. This is a joinery unit that is also part of Infinite Joinery. We haven't developed our oven stack here yet, but we can apply the same door styles that we're using throughout the kitchen to these elements here. So let me just quickly show you the benefits of having this database. Let's say, for instance, that we've just got doors everywhere here, and the client decides they don't want doors, they want drawers. So if I go into, in fact, I won't even select an element. I'll just go into the tool itself. Okay, so within Infinite Joinery, I'm just going to download the latest databases. And I'm going to go into the functions, and I'm going to find that function. So let's go to station 1. Station 1 is a single story, it's door on the top. So let's go and find our function that we've set up. Okay. If we change this function here, it will change in all the other instances as well after a refresh. So we're going to unlock this function, and we're going to change it from the handle, the door with the handle at the top, to something else. Let's do drawbank 1. Now we haven't necessarily configured drawbank 1 yet, but it still should work. We'll go and configure drawbank 1 shortly to make sure it works. Okay, so we'll set that to drawbank 1. We'll leave all these settings as they are. We'll now update. This is called kitchen door. See, that's one of the problems with setting the name based on the function. We should have called this kitchen function 1 instead of kitchen door. So then changing it to a drawer would make more sense. Anyway, we'll leave it as kitchen door, but we'll still change it to a drawer. So we now upload this and download that, and now we better go find out what drawbank 1 is. So we'll go into the drawers. Let me just minimize a few of these other things here. Drawer 1, drawbank 1 is drawers. There's 2 of them. They're equal heights and they're fit to the cupboard height. So they'll go to the right size, and it'll be 2 drawers, and that should cover the whole kitchen. Okay, so that looks good. So let's get out of that object. Okay, now we select the items that we want to refresh the data of. So we've updated the data of that component. We select the items that are using that component. We go into the functions menu and we refresh the functions database. So if I click download there, all these doors should turn into drawers. Oh, you know what? We have one problem though. If we go to functions, we can see that global functions are set. So what we need to do, global functions are defined by the assembly. So we need to come back here, and long before we changed any of this, we should have been unlocking that. Let's just go back into functions and turn that off, because that is actually getting in our way. As you can see, they've now all reverted to drawers. We've got this funny double drawer thing at the top. I didn't notice that. We'll go back in and we'll set that. So it's reverted to drawers. That's your drawer option. It's not specifically 3 drawers. That's just an image, a representation. Okay, so now we need to go back here and we need to reload our assembly, because we did turn those functions, the global functions, off and change that. So we'll just upload that, download, and lock. Okay, so now all our functions that were doors are now using drawbank 1. We just need to go into drawbank 1 and make sure it is set to what we want drawbank 1 to be. So drawer 1. See, I didn't realize we'd done this split here, so I better turn that off. So we'll get the double out of that top one. And then we'll save this as 20f-draw b1 for the bank 1. Upload, download, and that's been set to custom by the assembly. So we'll go into our assembly here and we'll unlock that. You often have to keep your assembly unlocked while you're making modifications, and we can lock that down. Okay, so with those items refreshed, we have now turned our doors into drawers, and we can quickly turn them back as well. So once again, going to the object, functions, we don't want drawers, we go to station 1, that's the right element, so we'll just apply that. We'll just download this, make sure we're at the latest. We'll unlock it, we'll change this back to door handle top, we'll upload, download. That doesn't really matter, this is only our test element anyway. So we've changed that element, click OK, go into our 3 elements that use that component, do a quick refresh on the database, the functions database, refresh, and click OK. And now we're all back to doors again. So using the catalogues to very quickly cycle through options, styles is very handy, especially once you've used the tool for a few weeks. You have several of your styles and options and standard configurations in there. You'll just be able to cycle through all the different styles that you like. Okay, that's the kitchen. I'm going to go up and I'm going to show you now internal one. So I'm going to actually set one up from scratch so you can see what that's like. So we'll just go upstairs. Might just shoot up through here. There we go. Upstairs into one of the bedrooms. This is their built-in robe. I'm just going to select this door. This is the infinite openings, so I know I can mess around with this, and I'm going to change this from a robe sliding door to off so we can see inside. Where's my empty opening? There we go. Okay, that's just so we can see inside the cupboard. Now I can select my joinery tool. This standard setup looks pretty funky. That's probably because I've been playing around with a lot of things in GDL lately. So I might just start with something a bit more mainstream, and that would be one of the kitchen cupboards I've just set up. So we'll just go to assembly. Before we do that, we'll just download all the databases. Make sure we've got the latest data in here. And then we will select, let's do our kitchen window. Okay, so that's the setup. The materials are obviously a little bit funny. I might see if I've got something set up for that already. No, it doesn't like it. So I might go back to one of those units downstairs. I'll go into its settings, and I will save its 3D settings. Okay, now I can go back upstairs. Okay, so back into our object, we'll download the 3D and we will apply that. Okay, so now I've got something a bit normal. Right, now let's unlock this and let's unlock everything else. So this little button unlocks all these ones down here simultaneously, so to make it a little bit easier. We can unlock the appearance, it's kind of irrelevant. And same with the functions, we'll unlock all our functions. Okay, now let's go into the designer menu, because that's usually our starting point. Open up our menus, carcass. We don't want a benchtop in here. We actually don't want a kick in here either. Okay, so this is my carcass. I actually, we're going to stretch this into the height of the cupboard, but I want to put it at 2100 first to see where we're at. So we'll stretch all this into the cupboard. The cupboard is actually, I know the cupboard's 2100 wide, so I'm just going to set it at something small so I can stretch it. And it's also going to be less than that. I'm just going to start 300. Actually, we're going to do 450. Will be our depth, because that'll be the depth. We actually won't have a carcass in this because it's a built-in cupboard. Let's go and start turning things off. We're not going to have beams at the front or the rear. We're not going to have the top panel on either, because it's just going to go up into a shelf. We don't need our left or right panels, nor do we need a rear panel or a base panel. So we don't need any of the carcass elements, in fact, in this. So let's save this as 20F BIR for built-in robe. An upload, and a download, and a lock. We've still got our overall sizes available and our kick and our bench top if we want to turn them on. However, we're going to keep these off. So we're going to go into this, and we're going to set this to off. We haven't got an off. So let's go off, upload, download, and lock. Same with the kick. You can see it's off as well. Upload, download, and then lock. Just to refresh, the upload is to send this off configuration to the database. The download is to bring that information back into the object so it's available in this drop-down menu. We can then go and select it from the drop-down menu. However, if we click the lock button, the object will find the catalog item that has the same name as the set component name. So we just need to click lock and it works. Function arrangement. Now this is where things are going to change. So let's reduce this carcass. Reduce this. The element is only, the robe is only 2100 wide, maybe 2150. So we're only going to have perhaps 2 functions, both being around 1 meter wide each. We might have 3. So let's start with 3 and we'll do something complex and then we'll simplify it. Okay, so we've got 3 elements and that's our general thing. Let's fit it into the cupboard now. Okay, so I'm just going to first check what my insertion point is. Place that in there. Okay, so let's stretch the cupboard into place. We can do this in 2D as well if we wanted to. So let's go to 2D here. So this is my cupboard. So that's got the chamfer on it still. That's why that node was out there. So we can get rid of that. And now we drag the overall size. So we grab this node here. Stretch that. Go back to the 3D. And so let's go set our functions. We've got the general assembly, which is basically nothing because it's a built-in robe. So everything will be controlled in the functions. So let's get out of the design menu, designer menu, and let's go to our functions menu. And let's just go to the functions page. Do it from there. So we don't want global functions on. We want, I'm going to start off with 2 lots of shelving and 1 lot of drawers. So we're going to turn these off. And then this is going to be a drawer. And we'll just make this drawer bank 1. Drawer bank 1 can be a different drawer setting in different objects. So that may get a little bit confusing. But drawer bank 1 in this object isn't the same as drawer bank 1 in the other object. It can be. And drawer bank 1 can be saved to a component item that defines that. But drawer bank 1 can be saved to different component items in different objects. One way of controlling that is by using the assembly. So certain assemblies use certain components. Okay, so let's go and have a look at what we've got with that. Okay, we don't want this partition here, and we want some shelves and rails across here. So we want a shelf across the top. Let's have a look. We might even split this. Let's split this up into 2. Equal for now. Let's go and have a look at the sizes. So if we go to our function arrangement, okay, so this one's 1 meter high. We're going to make this a lot higher. We're going to make this 1600. So that'll just be a small sort of shelf unit in there. We go back to our functions and we'll turn this one off. Have a look. Okay, our drawers are set to the height of the thing. So let's go set our drawers up. Drawer configurations. We don't want it to fit cupboard height. We actually want it to be 1650, I think it was. 50. And we want it to consist of quite a lot of drawers. We're going to put in 8. Let's start with 8 and see how we go. It might be a little overkill. Let's try 6. Okay, let's take a look at what we got. Okay, so we've got a set of drawers, and we'll have a shelf above. We also need to get rid of this partition here. We'll leave that one in there, and we should have one on top of these drawers. Okay, so let's go in and set up our partitions. So we can go to the internal partitions page, turn this one off, and we need one above the drawers, so we'll make that a minor. That's set it as a minor as well, but we'll make this the minor, and we'll make this element a major. That just means this has priority at the junction. Okay, so we'll put a shelf that goes across the top here, and we'll put another one that goes down a little lower with a hanging rail. We might do 2 hanging rails, but these are 2 separate things, but we'll set them up as the same. So I'll show you how that works. So let's first go and organize the shelves. So we'll go to our shelf placement, and station 1 we'll set to shelf bank 1, and then we'll define shelf bank 1 here. So we've got shelf bank 1, 2 and 3. We want one shelf, and it's going to go right across the top. So its position is going to be at the 2100 height. It's going to be the 450 depth. It's not going to have a beam on it. We'll leave that off. Thickness of the shelf is 16 mil. That's the same as the thickness of the carcass of the other element. Okay, so we don't need equal heights on. And we need this back up at that 2100. Okay, now that we've set that shelf, we can apply it. So we can apply it to all elements, or we can apply it to just above. Let's apply it to all elements to start with. Let's go, leave it in shelf bank 1. Everything's white, so you can't see it in 3D. It's a problem with using white in your model. Okay, so shelf bank 1, have a look. So that's putting the shelf across there. We want it to go across this one and these 2, and then we're going to have another shelf in here. So we want it to go across all, but these 2 are going to be different. So let's set these to a different shelf. It'll be the same as shelf bank 1. Shelf bank 2, in that we'll have 2 shelves instead of 1. They're not going to be equal heights. The top one's going to be at 2100, like the last one, 450 depth. Yeah, that's right. And this one is going to be at, let's say, 1700, and we'll leave that at 450 as well. Okay, and we'll click OK. So now we've got the shelving that we want as well. That looks a little bit awkward design-wise, but anyway, I'm not an interior designer. I'm not going to worry about that. This probably needs to be brought down. Let's actually grab that down. Reduce those drawers to maybe 1500. So now we're going to need to go in here and go back to our drawers. Set that to 1500. Okay, we'll leave that as is. The other thing we want in here is we want a hanging rail, and I'm actually going to do 2 hanging rails. So I'll go back to my shelf placements, and in bank 2 I want to set some rails. So set rails, I'm going to have 2, and I'm going to have, this shelf is at 1700, so I'm going to have this first one at 1600 and the other one will be at 700. Okay, so we have drawers, shelves, rails. This is basically the setup I was looking for. Now, what I'm going to show you is how we can very easily start to adjust this setup, or test some options. So I'm going to save all these functions and stations, configurations. So let's go into the element. We'll go back to our components page. We'll check what we've already got stored. So we're locking a few of those things down. Gables are off. Legs are off. We'll just leave all that as is. There's not a. We've got rails off here. Legs are off, so casters are irrelevant. Function arrangement, we'll play with that. Okay, so we've got all those sort of things. The function arrangement we want locked down. We might even we'll lock this down, so we'll call this BIR. Download and lock. Now we might mess around with this one as well, so I'll leave that locked for now, but we might need to unlock it if we want to play with it a little bit. Okay, so now we go to the functions. Minimize the design menu, go into the functions. You see we've got 3 stations. We'll just expand. So the first station is 1 story and it's off. Second station is the same. These are our 3 stations. Now, if I want to save these individual functions out as well, so I can just save this as, these are basically shelf with 2 rails. So we'll go 20F dash BIR dash SRR. So it's shelf rail. Upload. Download, and we can lock that. That means we can also then set this one to that because it's the same, and then these functions we can go in and set these. So I'll just close these 2 stations. They're set up. This one we're going to do 20F dash, this is the drawbank, BIR dash DRW. And then second function is basically just off. We have an off in here. There's an F off. We'll leave that out of there. So we'll go for off, upload, download, lock. Okay. So that's those functions defined and locked as well. So what that now means is we can quite easily go and apply these functions to other components. Okay, so let's go in and make this cupboard a bit more flexible in how we position things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the function arrangement and I'm going to make that flexible. By that I mean I'm going to set them both up in the same way as this element here. Seeing as though these 2 elements really do not rely on this division, as they're just shelves and rails, I can divide them in the same way as this element so that we can then start moving things around more easily. So let's unlock that component. Set these to equal. Make them 2. Uncheck the equal. and set them to match the next one. Reload this component to update it, download the update, and lock. Now, because we added different elements, we're going to have to go and check our partitions as well. Okay, so we don't want this element in here at the moment. Doesn't seem like we've set up our partitions, but that might change as we sort of flip things around, so we won't worry about actually saving that element just yet. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got. Okay, so as you can see, nothing has changed. Now, what we can do is we can start alternating the position of these things. So say I change my mind and I want the drawers in the middle. Go back into the tool, go into our functions, have a look at all our stations together. So we can see we've got the shelf and rail and then custom above for that new element, and then shelf and rail and custom above for the new story that we put in there, and this is our original drawers and off in our third arrangement. So now all we need to do to switch these things around is change these. So if I want drawers in the middle, all I do is go draw and off and change this one to SSR and custom for now, and then this one here was shelf bank 2, shelf bank 1. So that should give us a completely different arrangement. We will need to adjust the partitions in this element, but I'll show you that shortly. Okay, so there you can see we have our shelf and rail arrangement here and here as well, except our partitions are a bit wrong. So this is actually a partition element there. So is that. So we need another partition element down here, and we need this element to move over to here. So to do that, we simply go into our partition settings. We can do this here, or we can go to the partition page. So that becomes off, this becomes minor, and these two elements both become major. So as you can see, setting up these components allows you to very easily create multiple configurations and test different arrangements of those components. Once you have your general styles and typical arrangements that you use all set up in the library after your first project or two, it'll be just a matter of flicking through all those options that you want to use. So assembling something like this will basically be just a select and drop scenario, and then you'll be able to play with it very quickly. Okay, so that's sort of how to set up the catalogues, how an example of doing internal fit out rather than just kitchen cupboards and things. The final thing I wanted to show you is how you can really streamline the QA process of this tool, and that is through Arcade's interactive schedules. So what I'm going to do now is I'll set up a schedule from scratch, because I don't think I've got one in this project, and I'll show you how I go about selecting the different values and then use those values to check and control the elements. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to go to our schedules. I'm going to create a new schedule. Now we want to add library part parameters. So this is the important part here, adding in the library part parameters. So we'll go find that library part, infinite by CAD Swift, and infinite joinery. So that's what we probably need to write, infinite joinery.gsm up there. I'll make sure of that. Alright, infinite joinery. Expand this so we can see a bit more. Okay, so the values that we want to schedule are all the selected components. So these ones here that are the all log, they're a concatenation of the selected components that are contained in an array, so where there's multiple elements. So obviously there's multiple drawers, grills and door panel types that can be used in one instance. So that's the concatenation of that. That doesn't actually allow you to control the element though. These are just a text value. The ones that we want to find are the ones that start with the value cc log. Okay, so this is component catalog 2D representation, assembly, benchtop, carcass, casters. The door panels, drawers, these are the ones that you see, that's the ones that we have the concatenations for, because they're array elements, so we can't schedule array elements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all these, the ones that I can add. And that's all. Add. I should go back up and I should add these as well. Okay, so I'm just going to organize this into the standard hierarchy. So we start with assembly. Okay, now that I have all my elements in the schedule, I'm just going to click OK, and I'll go open up that schedule. Okay, so obviously right here in our schedule we can very easily see what elements are locked to catalog items and what elements remain custom. So we can quickly see what parts of our project are controlled and what parts aren't. We can also alter these elements in the schedule. That's one of the great things about ArchiCAD's interactive schedules. So anywhere we've made a mistake, we can fix that. For instance, here where we have the component gables, we don't have gables on any of our elements, so we might as well switch these all to off. We could also go along and do the same with the legs. However, we have to make sure that we actually have an off component item set in order to do that, which we don't have in the legs database at the moment. So we have to go back into the object to do that. We do have a Rails off here, so we could use that, although that's not following the naming conventions I have used for this project, so I'm not going to apply that at the moment. I need to clean these databases, make them more specific to this project. Here in the assemblies we can see that none of our assemblies are applied, even though our components are. So we can go in and apply the assemblies that we know we've set up. This element here is, I think, the kitchen island. Let me just check that again. Okay, so this is our kitchen island. So we can go in here and select our kitchen island. We can do the same up here for the kitchen window. But we haven't yet set up the kitchen wall as an assembly, so we need to go back into the object to do that. So as you can plainly see, the ability to lock components to a definition and then schedule that component in ArchiCAD's interactive schedules gives you the perfect quality control platform for your entire project. We have this function in the Joinery tool, obviously. We also have it in Infinite Openings, our door, window, skylight, curtain, wall panel tool. We also have infinite basins and infinite sinks that have this same functionality, and we're going to start bringing this into all of our other tools. So I hope you look forward to having this extra control and all these efficiencies as part of your Office's toolkit. Thanks for watching. There will be a link down the bottom in the description for Infinite Joinery. And don't forget to subscribe. I think it's about here somewhere. And hit that notification bell as well so that you can see all these videos as soon as they come up. We've got lots of new releases coming up for many of our tools, so you won't want to miss out. Thanks, and I hope you all have a great day.